version of the natural physique that was insane. But you'll see guys who are natural who are a fraction of what that natural guy was take gear and blow them out of the water in size gains. I think that comes down to genetic response to drugs. It's not just how good your natural genetics are. It's also that plays into your genetics, but it's also drug response too, which I think in bodybuilding it's a bit unique in that aspect because it's not like the guy in your high school who just had the best natural physique also would have responded the best to gear. It doesn't always seem to work like that.
However, not that they don't work either. Right? I think that's obvious. Steroids do work. However, you gotta leave me a little more because I want to get out and go. There's so many different ways to go from here. Okay, I'm a firm believer that if someone decides to use steroids, it's their personal choice whether they decide to use it or not, whether it's man, female, animal, whatever. Okay. I would suggest having blood tests done periodically through the duration of use. I think it's important. Another way you can tell if you're taking too many steroids and maybe your eyes turn yellow and maybe your face looks weird. I mean, you're taking too much. Okay. I've seen some of these effects in people I know.
So he's way ahead of his time. He's talking about getting blood tests done. He's talking about jaundice symptoms of using oral steroids because back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of guys were pounding B-ball by the bottle, and a lot of different oral agents were really, leveraged very, very aggressively during those time periods. So I wouldn't be surprised if, the yellow eyes thing was actually fairly prevalent among some of the hardcore abusers. So, it's interesting to hear him say this stuff. This is before any of the literature was available that we refer to now to actually come to our own conclusions.
And if you study this, if you're using this everyone, there's a maximum figure on steroids. I like that. You really want to discuss figures. I would say that the most I would take it, the most I would ever consider taking 100 milligrams a day. 100 milligrams is based on my body weight. The kind of steroids I take. I believe in anabolic therapy and not androgenic therapy.
So he's saying you would not cross 700 milligrams a week, which is interesting, and you would, probably think, well, this guy's trying to win the Olympia. Is that really realistic?
This is really tough to put it in one sentence. I'll put it in 3 or 4, okay? When you're taking steroids, you have to realize they need to recuperate quicker. And the whole essence of bodybuilding lies in recuperation. When you get weaker and smaller, you go home and you rest and you sleep, you get stronger and you recuperate. And so what the steroids do is you recuperate quicker from more about the workout. So in essence, you get more heavier workouts in per month, which leads you to develop faster, of course. There are certain skin characteristics. Use polish, obviously, you can throw it uses did not get otherwise. Although I found that I've been on my very strongest, I've gotten my biggest, strongest list without steroids when I was younger. So I don't really believe that they helped me do things I could do without them. Although to obtain a degree of polish.
See, what's interesting is how many of these top guys will actually talk about how their best lifts were done either on barely any shit or when they were natural. Louis Priest often talks about how even for him, some of his best lifts were not when he was using a shit ton of drugs. They were when he was using barely anything or he was even natural.
So that's what the anabolic situation is.
I'm not saying you have to believe him. I'm just saying it just seems to be a consistently stated, something that seems to be consistently brought up.
Basically, liver function and non-activity. And I mean, we're weary of that. There are some more androgenic. I hope you know what I mean by that. Androgenic compounds.
Imagine asking some random chick in the audience in the 80s. I hope you know what I mean.
They're testosterone-based items and things that are more and more secondary male characteristics. They put short and mildly they add age and more sarcoplasmic development. Okay. Now, sarcoplasm. building putty-like stuff with muscle veins. So a lot of times you'll see a guy take 10 to 50 over a balloon, right? And that's the young drug back on those same guys. It's great. A lot of that is water, a lot of that is sarcoplasm as well. Strength athletes need and require more sarcoplasm enhancements to aid in leverage and strength performance. So really those smooth fat flows to sarcoplasm enhancement.
And this is where he's talking about compound selection and where it's appropriate for certain choices. Like would a certain individual seeking certain performance enhancing outcomes use fill in the blank compound versus this? He's referring to anadrol for its increased temporary hypertrophy outcomes and its enhanced leverage at the gym, and why it would be used in specific situations. Like this is way ahead of its time kind of shit.
Okay. Now you're dealing with a guy that's 6'5", who needs more sarcoplasm enhancement. They make adopt more sarcoplasm and more inhibiting therapy and inhibiting program. These drugs are more dangerous. I always wonder about animal. I wouldn't say that he said this. He on stage said this. He liked Dianabol. I was wondering but I was analyzing Dianabol. Dianabol is like androgenic as well as androgenic. Anabolic as well as androgenic. He needed sarcoplasm enhancement. He needed more tall structure. It was anabolic as well. And I feel you get true muscle gains in anabolic situations, and from androgenic gains you get more sarcoplasm enhancement, less true myofiber development. Mildly.
The people in the audience are just, what the fuck are you talking about right now? And yeah, it's just detailing the compound selection, what would be appropriate for your body type. So he's elaborating on how Arnold, for example, is a tall guy who has a big structure to fill out. So therefore, something like Dianabol is more retentive, might be a more appropriate choice than something like a prostanoline, perhaps. You know, like this is kind of like the determination of certain compounds based upon what you individually need.
My approach to drug therapy is something I consider. And when I look purely cosmetically, I come up with some sarcoplasm, which a lot of it is retaining would be more sarcoplasm. Where if you just know, you need too much sarcoplasm. Okay? Like me, I take what leaving, take other things. I take other things, take too much sarcoplasm. It's just a weird friend of mine. Okay, I don't mean to put it down. A very superior physique. These are things I notice. Not that I'm saying drugs are great, you don't take drugs, okay, I'm not saying. I'm opening up and being honest. And I strongly believe in a decrease in growth patterns under the duration of anabolic situations. When we're starting high for a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, going medium for 2 to 3 weeks, going low for 2 to 3 weeks, off for 2 to 3 weeks, and going back high. This enables the body mass secretion, not to shut off completely.
Obviously, this is like some book science, but it's not like there was really any data available to conclude otherwise at the time. So it's basically talking about tapering off and stuff in order to prevent your HPTA from shutting down. We already know that obviously your HPTA will be shut down regardless. But anyway,
as the body concentration begins to diminish, and you reduce the dosage, and the body mass secretion supposedly, according to the data that exists, increases. And as you go lower in dosage, your body was naturally decrease more testosterone naturally.
Look how ironic the background banner is. Health and fitness, the natural way to better health, as we're talking about. What anabolic steroids to take, and which ones will hopefully not fuck you up.
So you never want to shut down natural secretion. Otherwise, if you take drugs incorrectly, it's smaller and weaker rather than bigger and stronger. Taking too much drugs too long, you take more, your body won't respond to it anymore. I'm sure you've heard this, but you're not getting the results anymore. You just keep it. You can't get any more effective if you go up to a higher dosage in the body. At that point, you need to get off, cycle down, and clean off well, so to speak. Sometimes during them off, steroids use HCG, and there's some hormones to help stimulate naturally.
It's almost like when you're singing a song and you don't know the words, so you just say what it sounds I'm not making fun of it, it's just funny.
These HCG, even downtown Como to help stimulate natural secretion again. That's my procedure. So it's very, very likely. I mean, in Germany, I've discussed this same thing I'm discussing right now for about 3 hours, and we didn't do justice to it at all. I've heard that speak on 8 hours from the lunch break.
It's human chorionic gonadotropin, by the way.
Warning, you will only see this ad once, as I've set it up in AdWords to restrict the amount of times you can watch this. So it's important that you watch this right through to the end. Now, the reason I'm making this video for you is that I've been working very hard on my brand new flagship product over the past 3 months. In fact, I probably remember around a month ago, I opened this up to 22 beta testers via a live YouTube call. Well, I'm happy to announce that all of
If you're wondering.
It can be a very detailed process, and it can be more and more involved as you get more and more skill in hormonal manipulation. By no means is the risk free. Granted, I'm avoiding a lot of the risks involved. Avoiding abuse, and there's still a risk present. You got to understand, I'm not rationalizing, I'm proud of taking steroids, okay? I'm not. And as an athlete, as I mentioned earlier, has a need, not just a desire, a need. An athlete, a true athlete, a professional athlete will die. Will die off the same side. I don't give it right skill. I don't give it my health. It's me, it's my makeup, it's my life. And to take a steroid which doesn't commit suicide, I feel I can take the minimum risk to get closer to my goal. Most athletes pursue drug therapy. And they do. I think that's one reason they probably get into that train of thought, because it's more than just desire to need. They'll die if they don't, they'll die anyhow if they don't get there. So it's like worth the risk in our mind, I should say, most athletes' mind. These are only my views. Not the Bible. I don't mean to say, lay my thoughts on you and absolutely interview and say, this is it. But these are how I see